Feudals. In the countryside and to a great extent in the town as well, the most important elements are not individuals, though they are led by individuals or even families in the Western sense. From this point of view, as from many others, the description of rural landowners as feudals is false, insofar as it suggests any close comparison with their medieval European equivalents. If this were so, the Pakistani feudals would long since have been swept away by pressure from below and reform from above. Each individual, feudal, is quite a small landowner by traditional European standards. 500 acres is a big estate in Pakistan, and most of his or sometimes her wealth may well now become from the urban property. In Punjab at least, the really big landowners lost most of their land in the land reforms of Ayub in the late 1950s and Bhutto in the early 1970s. In fact, I thought of arguing that there is in fact no such thing as a feudal in Pakistan. But then I remembered wild boar hunting with the nobles of landowners of Sindh, a remarkably feudal experience, described in chapter 8. So what I'll say instead is that while there certainly are feudals in Pakistan in the loose Pakistani sense of that term, there are no feudals in the European historical sense. A great many leading feudal families, especially in northern Punjab, are not old land-owning families at all, but emerged quite recently, often on the basis of urban property or successful corruption when in state service. However, they adopt the same manners and behave politically in the same way as the old families. Above all, they appeal for support in their own kinship groups and do so on the basis of the same old politics of patronage and protection. Indeed, the most powerful remaining feudals in Pakistan owe their power not to the extent of their personal land holdings, but to the fact that they are the chiefs of large tribes, and the importance of leadership roles in kinship groups extends down to the lesser gentry as well. It is the way in which individual landowners are embedded in land-owning clans, like Gujars of Attock, the subject of a classic study by Stephen Loyne, which gives them their tremendous strength and resilience and allows them to go on controlling the politics of the countryside and dominating those of the country as a whole. If the political power of the kinship group in Pakistan depended only on the distribution of patronage, then this power might well have declined over time, given that patronage will always be limited. But it is also rooted in the oldest of the social compulsions, collective defense, as one landowner politician in Sindh told me in words, which were echoed by many other people and provide the title of this book. This is a hard country. You need family or tribal links to protect you, so that there are people who will stick with you and sacrifice for you whatever happens. The way you will not be abandoned even when out of government. The tribal people gives even ordinary tribesmen some strength and protection against attack. Whether by dacoits, the police, the courts, your tribesmen will get you out of jail, lie for you to the court, avenge you if necessary. Since the British days, outside the Baloch and Pathan areas, this has rarely been a matter of the whole clan taking up arms against a rival clan. Rather, in a violent society in which none of the institutions of the state can be relied on to act in accordance with their former rules, close relations with kinfolks are essential for help against rivals, against the predatory and violent police, in the courts, in politics, and in the extraction of political patronage, all areas of activity which overlap and depend on each other. A combination of the weakness of the state and the power of kinship is one critical reason why urbanization has had a much smaller impact on political patterns and structures than one might otherwise have expected. Rather than a new urban population emerging, what we have mainly seen so far is huge numbers of peasants going to live in cities while remaining culturally peasants. They remain deeply attached to their kinship groups, and they still need their kinship groups to help them for many of these same reasons they needed them in the countryside. Underlying all this is the fact that so much of the urban population remains semi-employed or informally employed rather than moving into modern sectors of the economy, because these usually do not exist. And of course, while the power of kinship is necessary to defend against the predatory state, it is also one of the key factors in making the state predatory, as kinship groups use the state to achieve their goals of power, wealth, and triumph over other kinship groups. As one informed description of the state legal system has it, below the level of the high courts, all is corruption. Neither the facts nor the law in the case have real bearing on the outcome. It all depends on who you know, who has influence, and where you put your money. So the ancient Pakistani kinship groups and the modern Pakistani state dance along together down the years, trapped in a marriage that ought to be antagonistic, but has in fact become essential to the nature of each party. The problem about all this is that while, in one way, the power of kinship underpinning the rules of the elites has so far maintained the basic stability and even the existence of Pakistan, in other ways, the plundering of state resources for patronage which this politics breeds has been extremely bad for the development of the country. It is striking that the most economically and socially dynamic sections of the Pakistani population are those which have to a greater or lesser extent been shaken loose from the traditional cultural patterns and kinship allegiances by mass migration. This is most obviously true of the Muhajirs of Karachi who migrated from India after 1947, but even more important are the Punjabis who fled from East Punjab in the dreadful summer of 1947 and now form the backbone of the Punjabi economy. A much smaller, but in some ways even more striking, group are the Hazaras of Balochistan, who fled from Afghanistan in the late 19th century and whose educated middle-class society forms a remarkable contrast to the stagnation that surrounds them.